Excited to do this one. I know that you guys, CitrusAds Front, have a lot of awesome news recently, so I know we're going to cover a little of that here. And additionally, for folks on the line, I think the best thing about this presentation is you're going to be able to see kind of two different sides of this equation, and kind of how collectively the e-commerce advertising movement is progressing. I think, a lot of you folks, if you are, more familiar with Technometrics, more familiar with Amazon and Walmart and how those advertising ecosystems work, but right, there's really a wealth of retailers that are now really dipping their toe into it, going a little stronger, and CitrusAd's been a big part of that. Those folks actually going to market with a true advertising product. And so CitrusAd, I mean, you guys just have a really great view into terms of how those guys are moving, because Amazon and Walmart are kind of a unique animal. Amazon especially, right, like way ahead of the pack, right? They do things very differently. But you have more and more retailers kind of seeing, okay, well, what else can we do? We tried this, that was maybe more rudimentary. We're going to get one more advanced. So I'm super excited just because this speaks to, if you're a seller, being in tune with this stuff, even if it's not necessarily something that you can execute on right now, understanding where these folks are at, where these other retailers that might be good fits for your particular products, it's going to put you just at a better, at an advantage vis-a-vis your competitors, because your ability to understand these, maybe test them out yourself eventually. We saw this with Walmart in particular, but right, Walmart didn't have an API-enabled advertising product, as an example, up until really early last year. But they had invited certain folks in early, and we were luckily one of the first partners to do that. And we've noticed that those folks that got in early, that began testing, even if it was with limited budgets, they were 6 months later, they were in a much better spot, both even just from an organic point of view, like ranking better. I think they better understood what actually converts on those retailers. And then additionally, from an advertising point of view, hey, what works well for our business? What works well as part of the system, in that case, Walmart. But as we look at these other retailers, these folks are really expanding what they're doing, and they're doing it in interesting ways, which again, I know Dana's going to go into this a little bit more detail, but this is definitely an exciting space to watch, I think, as we get closer, really, as we get into, obviously, deeper to 2021, 2022, more and more of these retailers are trying to get more advanced, roll out more features for sellers. They're starting, obviously, with the biggest guys, moving kind of down market as they go. So I don't know, Dana, I mean, from like a mile-high view, even before we get started, I don't know what you feel kind of is worth kind of highlighting for folks that are just hopping on here.
Yeah, I mean, I think just kind of stressing, the importance of getting in early. It's an interesting concept because it's almost like that opportunity was like a year and even years prior, right? Even now, because of how quickly everything has moved from like a retail media perspective, it's almost like there are still some opportunities to get in on some things a little bit early, like maybe beta testing, but at this point, it's almost playing the catch-up game if you haven't thought about any, retail media strategy whatsoever as, an individual brand or even as a retailer, right? And I don't really know any retailers that haven't thought about it yet. But consider, and sorry if you hear that, my French bulldog is sleeping next to me. She just started snoring loudly.
Love it.
But yeah, when we look at, and we'll get into this, in the presentation, but looking at how the retail media, e-commerce landscape catapulted anywhere from like 3 to 5 years ahead of where we should be, for 2021. Like the time is now to figure out your strategy, and even like you said, even if it's small budgets, do some test and learns. Even if it's retailers that you don't have too much distribution on yet, you have to start somewhere, because it's just going to grow so much quicker than you can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. I think when where Walmart is now, I couldn't imagine when I was looking a little over a year back, when we were kind of just ramping up with their API. They kind of just launched it. I never expected it to be as large as it is, just adopted as widely as it is, and that's something that other retailers are paying attention. and they're paying attention to what's working for other folks, you know, and whether that's, you know, different ad types, the ability to obviously use like sponsored products versus display, all this other stuff. So, well, we're almost at the top of the hour, so I think we can probably get started. Just to do my little preamble for folks that are that kind of just joined. We are recording this presentation, so if you miss anything or want to review anything, you'll get a full recording of this roughly 24 hours after this presentation ends. We'll also just send together a slide deck if that's a way that you like to learn a little bit more. Additionally, at any time during the presentation, you don't have to wait till the end, you'll see a little questions box on the side of your screen. You can pop a question in there for myself or Dana, and then we can get to it at the end of the presentation, time permitting. We'll get to as many of those as we can. So with that, I think let's just get into it. So again, my name is Andrew Weber. I'm the Director of Insights over here at Takeometrics. I do a lot of the data-oriented studies that we do, and then additionally just really head up a lot of the content that we're doing from a high-level kind of market view perspective. So I'm really excited to be joined here by Dana Concepcion, who's the SVP of Media Sales over at CitrusAd.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Very happy to be joining.
Yeah, so this is I think a really interesting one. I think for folks that come on maybe a lot of our webinars, this is a little different, a different topic. We're really not focusing as much on Amazon and Walmart, although we'll be touching on how they relate to this larger landscape. But kind of just a quick rundown of what we're going to go over today. So first, just obviously a quick overview, who we are as Takeometrics, who CitrusAd is, and then really talking through, okay, the landscape. Okay, what are the retailers now outside of Amazon and Walmart that are really developing these larger advertising ecosystems for sellers and brands, and really focusing on something that's super exciting. CitrusAd, you know, latest new partner for Target.com, what the opportunities are there, along with some kind of capabilities, qualification criteria, can you think about that? And then we'll be also going into, okay, if you're an Amazon or Walmart seller, you don't sell, let's say, on Target or maybe some of these other retailers yet, why you should look into these other channels, and how to, you know, strategically, what are the considerations if you're thinking about expanding, even just selling on those retailers, let alone advertising. What are those considerations? What should go into your thinking about which retailer to pick, when you should make that plunge, because this is going to obviously, you know, going on a new retailer is probably the easiest way to kind of boost your sales, but there's obviously, you want to be strategic about it, right? You don't want to just go to, well, this guy's another big retailer, right? If anything, if you're selling maybe on Amazon and Walmart, maybe you want to think about a more niche retailer that's within your space that could be a really good fit for you. And so it's about thinking about where you can service that inventory, et cetera. So we'll go into that, and then obviously we'll do some Q&A at the very end. So a little bit about Takeometrics as we get started. So we're a technology platform. We offer a SaaS product along with a team of expert analysts if you want that extra hands-on keyboard help. And we help thousands of brands just grow their sales across Amazon and Walmart. You kind of see some of them here. We really focus in on that advertising aspect of it. We provide market intelligence kind of layered on top of that as part of our service packages if you want. But again, we've been doing this for a long time. We love doing it, and this webinar is obviously in a series of kind of, we do one of these every week. And while this one is, again, focused more on this larger ecosystem, we're going to do others, obviously, that are much more focused on specific specific Amazon advertising, or specific Walmart advertising topics. So be sure to tune in for those.
Great. So hi everyone, as Andrew mentioned, I'm Dana Concepcion, and you know, just to give you a little bit of a background for those of you that do not know who CitrusAd is and what we do. So we are a retail media platform. We are based in Australia. That's actually where we got our start back in 2017 in the Australia market, and then we also went into some UK areas as well, and then we launched officially our business in the US pretty much about a little over a year ago, so right around the same time that a global pandemic hit, which is you know, a very interesting time to launch a business. But you know, and as we'll get into with this presentation, you know, what we saw in 2020 with the pandemic was obviously a shift more towards online shopping, you know, which was a benefit to a lot of these retailers that were looking to grow their monetization strategies, and, you know, for brands as well, right? It was a huge area of opportunity to reach those consumers that are doing more grocery shopping online, clothing shopping, everything, right? There's a huge shift in 2020. And so it was a big area of opportunity for Citrus Ad to really grow our business, because there was way more of a need for a platform like us, right? In last year. And so what we really are is we're one platform. We kind of have three different pillars to, our business, right? So Citrus Ad within the retailers, you can choose to work with us three different types of ways. And then they're all very customizable, right? At Citrus Ad, we really, our, whole belief is that there isn't really like a one size fits all, especially when it comes to retailers. This is a very changing industry. And so we want to make sure that we are adhering to the needs of the retailers, as things grow. And so one way that a retailer can work with us is purely as a SaaS platform. So some of these retailers, are starting to build out their own internal sales teams, account management, data analyst teams, and they want to manage these monetization programs on their own, but they need help from a tech perspective, right? They're not going to build out the technology on their site, and that's where they use Citrus Ad just as the tech provider, and then they manage everything in-house. Another way that retailers will work with us is more on like a services level, where they need our, team to help manage multiple parts of their business and kind of be like an extension of their media teams that they have in-house. And then the third way that retailers work with us is more of kind of what we call this quote unquote, network e-commerce landscape. And I know you can go over to the next slide, Andrew. And so this is kind of a snapshot of all the retailers that we work with within the US. And so here's where, these retailers are using Citrus Ad not only for our technology, but also for our team to help, sell in these products and help to manage these campaigns. And so you can see here some of the big retailers that we work with: Lowe's, Petco, Target. We do have the largest grocery network within the US. So that's kind of where we got started in 2020 last year. We started to work with a lot of the regional grocery players like ShopRite, Hy-Vee, Harris Teeter, and then it grew from there. Another interesting launch that we just had within the last month and a half is GoPuff, which is, for those of you that don't know, they're a really interesting business model where they have micro fulfillment centers all across the country, where you can essentially get anything delivered at any time of day within 15 to 20 minutes. I've used them before and I've tested it, and they are very quick. And so they kind of started more as like a snacking service, but now they have products across every type of vertical. So if you ran out of diapers and you need diapers, or pet food, cleaning products, there's a ton of stuff that they have. And so it's kind of like an online convenience store, so to speak, right? And they've grown a lot over the last year. So that's been a really great partner of ours as well. And then some additional ones that will be coming soon: Price Chopper, King Cullen Cub Foods, and Shift as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's probably worth going in now in terms of like something, a lot of these retailers that you work with, and we'll get into more the sponsored products aspect of this later, but I think it's worth talking about this display media, which I know is slightly more pervasive depending on the retailer.
Yes, for sure. So I think, when you think about retail media and the opportunities, it's not just one type of activation on a retailer, right? You really need to think about the full retailer site and how you can be reaching the consumers on those sites in many different aspects, right? Whether they're, searching for products, they're browsing the aisles. You've basically got them at a very low funnel point of purchase, right? I'm already on ShopRite doing my grocery shopping, or I'm already on Petco looking for, pet food. And so this is where display media, while within the retailer environment, you could say it's a little bit more upper funnel, it's still very performance based. Because for Citrus Ad, all of our display media that we have right now is all on site. And so, while typically you think display is more, branding awareness, especially if you're, doing it programmatically across a number of different sites, you're not really sure where it's serving or what that person is actually in the mindset to be doing. Here, they're doing their shopping already. So especially on a site like ShopRite, if I'm browsing through the dairy aisle and I'm doing my shopping for my yogurt, and then I see a display ad for another cross-category item. I may not have been thinking about it, but I'm like, oh, you know what? I need diapers as well, or I need tissues as well. And so this is where the display media really works very well on the individual retailer sites. And so Citrus Ad does have your typical IAB display banner ads across most of the retailers that we work with. We also have other types of display ad units. In addition to just your standard IAB units, we have something called Banner X, where it is more of a display banner that is actually embedded in the search grid. So it's kind of a cross between search and display, and those perform really well as well. And the best thing, well, one of the best things about these display tactics is that you can really branch out in terms of how you're targeting, right? So for display media across all the retailers that we work with, you can run this run of sight to reach just anyone and everyone, or you can target it more to individual categories and individual keywords, including competitor keywords. So this is something that comes up a lot where brands want to bid on their competitor terms. And that's something that you can't do on most retailer sites from a search perspective, but you can for display, right? So if I am, a diaper brand and I want to bid on a competing diaper brand term, I can do that in the display capacity and serve a display ad when someone is searching for my competitor to try to get them to switch.
And that's a great call out, because I think, for folks on the line that are maybe more familiar with Amazon and Walmart, right, that may be a big tactic that you do, right? I'm looking to conquest on my competitor terms. Normally, you might not think, hey, display, I have to be a little bit more, more broad. This gives you the ability, at least within these retailer sites, where you can kind of take that strategy. If you know what keywords, for instance, work on Amazon, especially maybe the competitor or category level in particular, those are great ones you want to take and say, we always recommend focus on category terms to grow your business, competitor terms when you know I have a better offer, I have a better product, right? I want to conquest on those. Those are definitely ones where you could take that type of strategy. And assuming you're selling on these and you want to get into this, you can take that strategy, port it right over to these specific type of display products on these retailers, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's even really good too for those, smaller up and coming, quote unquote challenger brands, right? If you're new to the space, if you're a new vitamin brand and people don't really know you by name, but they know some other big names, you can use that to try to get people to be aware of your product, right? We've seen that work really well, especially with display, because you can also tell a little bit more of a story rather than just serving the actual ad. There's more that you can put in the actual ad unit itself, any kind of, promotional offer, coupon. And then once you click on this, it will bring you to a page that you can choose to tell your story even further if you want. So it can be just a simple listing page with all of your SKUs, or we can house videos there. If you're a food brand, you can put recipes there. So there's a ton you can do there to try and engage the customer a little bit more, which works really well, especially for, like I said, up and coming new brands, or even if it's a new product that you have as well. And I think, sorry, I saw a question. Is it okay if I just go to the question? I just saw that.
Yeah, go for it. If it's right on topic, yeah, feel free to jump right in.
Yeah, I wanted to address that while we were talking about it. So besides keywords, do you have a predetermined set of affinity terms at a category level? For example, bread next to peanut butter shoppers, or even banana next to vanilla wafer shoppers. So yeah, so that's actually an interesting point. We do have some of this category benchmark data that we've started to build, right, in terms of where we see certain products performing well in categories. So that is something that we can help you guys with, especially across, most of the big categories where we've run a lot of campaigns, and we know this type of brand converts well when you're targeting that in this category. So yes, that is something that we can help just based on previous data that we have. Something else too that we have access to is just all of the behaviors and the searching that's happening across all these retailer sites. And when you think about especially with the grocery sites and how much growth they have seen in the last year. Like in 2021, I think it was about 44% growth in their online sales. So way more people are shopping online for their groceries on a ShopRite than would have happened in the last, in the next 5 years because of COVID. And we do have all of, those stats to say, okay, well, this is where you're going to get the most eyeballs, per se, right? Because if you think about some categories that maybe you don't automatically think of within grocery, like for example, beauty, right? Maybe, a beauty brand isn't automatically thinking, I need to focus on my strategy on a ShopRite or Harris Teeter, but you do sell your products there, and there's a ton more shoppers going to these sites. So it's a good area to reach them, especially at a more efficient cost, because when you look at the retail media landscape, it's going to be a lot more expensive to play on the Amazons and the Walmarts of the world, but you can reach similar consumers on these grocery sites, especially within cross-sell. So if we know that, the highest traffic categories are produce, for example, right, on the grocery sites, it does generally work well when we're putting display ads there for a cross category, right? So I'm already there searching for, my produce for the week, and I see an ad for a beauty brand, and it reminds me, oh, I actually need some new lipstick or whatever it is, they'll add that item to their cart as well.
Yeah, no, those are great use cases, and I think we'll go into more as we go. But I think it's a great way of, again, sellers here thinking, especially if you're already on some of these retailers, think creatively about ways you can advertise for them, get yourself more exposure, because then you still be getting in very, very early on these platforms. Again, to Dana's point, there's been so much growth over the past year. Traffic has exploded, and these retailers are only really spinning up their ads now. You can get in at very low rates and kind of feel yourself out what works, what doesn't.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, there's not as much saturation, not as much competition.
Yeah. And so, I mean, let's go into this a little more, kind of just this growing retailer advertising ecosystem for sellers. And I think, this really emphasizes a little bit what Dana was talking about, how it's just changing so much, and COVID being a propellant of that. There's going to obviously be, some pullback from what you saw, like, for instance, last April. However, old habits die hard, and people have been doing online shopping now, and specifically for grocery, which they were never doing before. Those have become old habits. They've been doing that for 8, 9, 10 months. Even if there's a little bit of pullback, those trends are not going away. That acceleration that you saw is going to be like a new kind of baseline. And yes, the subsequent growth won't be another 40%, but we've skipped ahead 2 years. I think a lot of the anecdote I like to hear is basically we got 2 years worth of e-commerce growth in 1 year, right? Yeah. It's like that's what you really saw. And this is impacting how retailers are addressing this advertising market. They say we need to do this. It's important for the growth of our site, as well as the sellers that sell on us. We understand that this is how those folks are, rather than some traditional advertising that they could do, let's say in a circular, et cetera, right? They want to move dollars online, and we want to allow them to do that. I mean, and so, let's think about just a year and a half ago, right? Walmart just launched this API just in early 2020. They're playing catch up with Amazon, and they've made huge strides where now Walmart is not close to parity with Amazon, but they've gotten a lot closer, where the differences as a seller you see between advertising on Amazon versus Walmart, those differences have gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. And Dana, I think you brought this up, right? More realtors, they're experimenting with new partners like Citrus Ad, right? Bringing on Citrus Ad, we're going to bring on other partners and different options. What can we offer sellers to in terms of an inventory perspective, in terms of a targeting perspective, on-site versus off-site? So there's a lot more there than was even a year or 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think they're doing more from a monetization standpoint, and they're even doing more to increase the shopper experience, right? Because something that you already touched on, like, and a lot of brands ask us, well, are we going to see a plateau? Are we going to see a decrease? Are people going to stop doing their online shopping and go back to in-person because things are changing in the world? But that's not what we're seeing, right? Yes, we're not going to see the same exact growth that we saw last year. Last year was a transformative year, but we're still going to see growth. And right now, what we're seeing across our retail set is about 18 to 20% growth year over year. And a lot of retailers are, like you said, looking at ways to enhance their monetization programs, but they're also looking at ways to make the experience better to keep the shoppers from shopping online, right? Like Target, for example, a big thing for them was within like the perishables, where, you know, for Target, yes, if it's a laptop or, you know, a pair of boots, you can get that shipped to your home. But for grocery shopping within Target, if you want to buy milk, ice cream, you know, yogurt, things like that, you can't get that shipped. You have to do either, you know, drive up, pick up in store, or same day delivery where they use Shipped for that. And they've increased the resources there tremendously. When they first started that from a pick up in store standpoint, you have to have refrigeration at the front of the stores. They started that before the pandemic in, I think, like a few select stores in Minneapolis, because that's where they're headquartered. And now they've expanded that out to multiple states across the country, where there's a lot more opportunity for a perishable brand to promote their products because there's more availability, right, for the consumer to actually get that online instead of having to physically go to Target and do their shopping in store.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just illustrative there. Like that's something that these retailers essentially were tasked, obviously, with turning on a proverbial dime to address these niche shopping habits. And this is filtering down. Okay, we're gonna manage our operations. Now this is gonna filter down to their on-site experience, to again advertising options as well. So we're definitely seeing that. So let's get more into Target.com. I know I'm sure a lot of folks on here are curious about that. So I mean, we kind of touched on this, right? E-commerce, the amount of growth we saw over the past year is just, it's transformative. As I think you said, you know, 44% year over year, I think you cited this. And I mean, I really like this, that the online share of retail sales jumped, right, 21.3%. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, it's really incredible. Like, and I know you mentioned that we've kind of catapulted 2 years ahead. Some analysts say we're almost like 5 years ahead. So it's anywhere between like 2 and 5. But it's
online grocery, I think, is a great example where that was something where it was a very nascent, like it was something that was, you know, 3-4 years ago, everyone's like, oh, it's much more popular in Europe than it is here. And, you know, this has, you know, changed that tremendously. And I think that's a great example there.
Yeah. And now people have gotten used to it, right? Like even if you weren't doing your grocery shopping online before, now you've done it and you're like, why was I wasting 2 hours at the store? Why was I dragging my kids screaming in the supermarket when I can do it well, right?
Yeah, and you know, something where obviously like non-perishables, that was something that Amazon, you know, kind of touched on. It's like, okay, reorder, you know, toilet paper, et cetera, stuff that's easy to get shipped. And right, maybe the reticence was more around the perishable items, the produce and things. But right, if people had that experience, they had to during COVID. It's like, well, I have to, let's say, order my groceries online. And they got the produce and like, oh, this actually wasn't that bad. I wasn't, you know, I didn't get like broken produce or a box that was, it's like, oh, this actually worked out all right. And then now, you know, that barrier where you thought, oh, maybe I'm gonna have a bad experience, and these retailers did a great job of like, we're gonna have a great experience, filters down, becomes an old habit. If you want to go into this one, I think there's some great stuff here too.
Yeah. So, you know, we talked about just overall retail growth. You know, Target has seen tremendous growth just themselves. So this, you know, speaks to what they saw last year in 2020. So overall, 34% increase in unique visits online, 77% increase in overall page views, and over 100% increase in online orders. So a huge jump for Target, you know, and they already had a lot of, you know, traffic and e-commerce on their site to begin with. So for them to see this huge bump is definitely, it's really great. And then if you look at the same day services, so this is kind of what I was speaking to before, right? They have 3 different options for those same day services. So this is outside of like your ship to home. This is if I want to pick up the order so I can physically walk into a store and pick up the order, or I can drive up and not even get out of my car. Someone comes out, pop the trunk open, put the products in there. And then the last is the same day delivery through Shipped, where, you know, somebody from Shipped goes and does the shopping and then brings it to your home that same day. And that was over 200% increase in 2020 in the orders that are coming from those 3 areas, which again is huge. And I think it, you know, it speaks volumes, especially to like what Target has been doing, especially to like respond, right? Because like I said, for perishables, you can only do that in certain select cities, but they expanded that a lot last year, which obviously led to the increase in orders. And so yeah, there's a lot more opportunity there, for sure.
Yeah, and I think building on this is definitely something that it is what the trends Target are seeing. I've seen Walmart discuss these trends as well. That the pickup in store, that same day service, they really want to leverage their physical in store footprint to fulfill these orders, and they will also. I mean, Walmart's done a good job of this, and I assume just by nature of just how things evolve, Target will do the same. Where Walmart wants to make this available to you, this data as a seller. They want to show you this works. You should be promoting towards this goal, this kind of pickup in store. Again, something that's probably Target's a little bit, they're taking it a little bit slower with some of these things, but it's absolutely something that, when you see the way that they're tailoring their business to kind of these new trends, similarly, I think, as we get further into the future, you're going to see Target also try to unveil these type of insights for sellers down the line, to really promote this idea of we have this huge retail and store footprint, leverage that as part of what you're driving towards with your ultimate sale, and how you want to take your strategy there.
Yeah.
So next, I think, this gets really into the brass tacks of what these product ads are, if you haven't seen them before. So yeah, if you can kind of go into this a little bit more detail.
Yeah, so so Target for Citrus Ad is a specific opportunity where we are just tapping into their TPAs, their target product ads, otherwise known as sponsored products, otherwise known as search on retail sites, right? Every retailer has this, they just call it something a little bit different. And so for Target, we just launched this opportunity, actually full on launch last week on June 4th, so very exciting. And I know you mentioned this earlier, Andrew, what Target is choosing to do is really grow their monetization program and utilize multiple partners for TPAs, not just one. So they will be working with the Citrus Ad platform as well as the Criteo platform that they were previously working with before. And really for them, it is to just grow the monetization platform. And then, for brands, it's your opportunity to choose which platform, you like better, right? Or you would like to run it, or maybe you do Citrus Ad for one thing, you do Criteo for another. It just gives the brands more options. And so we are tapping into all of the same actual placements here. So you'll see search pages. So that is by keyword search. So if I am searching for diapers on Target, it will bring up the search results. Category and browse pages just means I'm browsing through those category tabs right within Target's website. And then the last is the product detail page. So that's being able to advertise your products on other product detail pages, or even your own, just to kind of keep your share there. And some interesting numbers here, because I know we talked about the growth last year in terms of like the traffic to the site, but even the TPA product itself saw tremendous growth due to everything that happened last year. So 62% average conversion rate for the TPA product, over 30% increase year over year in the actual conversion rate. So I think this just again speaks volumes to more people going online and shopping, and so the conversion rates were higher last year, and we're still continuing to see that same thing. And on average, 3 to 4 return on ad spend is what we're seeing, and that's kind of just like a blanket average. It's really going to vary per category, and we do have those benchmarks if anybody is curious, because certain categories are just naturally going to perform higher, especially during certain times of the years, than others.
Yeah, it's a super interesting, I think, as they roll it out. And again, when you look at these layouts here, for your Amazon or Walmart sellers on the line, right, these are going to look very familiar in terms of what you see. Obviously, they have the split up into 3 versus 4 that you might see for Amazon or Walmart. But the idea being that, right, you have the ability with these ads to get basically to the top of search on some key terms and convert. And what we know, this is consistent across Amazon and Walmart, right, is that users trust these sites to put relevant products in front of them at the top of the search. And whether it's in, and this extends to ads because they've also done a good job of making sure that it's obviously not irrelevant products getting to the top of search. So these ads are clicked on at very high rates, and the share of conversions is overwhelmingly dominated by really those people at the top of the search and at the very least on page one. So this is really, again, right now, Target is ramping this up with partners like CitrusAd, et cetera. Expect this to continue to grow and also get more competitive, which is going to require kind of additional, you have to get smarter kind of as you go. Hence why getting in early, maybe testing out at least, will put you in a better position a year from now if you do want to take that plunge, let's say with bigger budgets a year from now, just to get used to the system, used to what works, what doesn't.
Yeah, definitely.
I love this slide because it kind of shows it in action for sure.
Yeah, then you can here you can actually see an example. So what we just talked about. So first going by the search pages, and I think something important to call out just as it relates to Citrus is our platform does allow you to actually bid on an individual keyword level that I know a lot of brands are looking for, and kind of speaking to what you were saying, Andrew, like as this landscape continues to get more competitive, because in most categories pre-COVID, it was already pretty competitive on Target. And so now it's even more. So the more levers you have to pull to be a little bit more strategic against your competition is going to be better. So our platform does allow you to optimize on an individual keyword level, meaning that you can have a strategy for each individual keyword that relates to your products. You can also have strategies to bid on individual SKUs. So if there are certain SKUs that you want to show up more, because maybe they yield a higher margin for you, or maybe they're a new product and you just want to get them seen. And then you can also bid on just a category level as well. So you do have more options, with the CitrusAd platform to be more strategic. But the search page example will show the keyword, I'm searching for moisturizer, and that Olay right there is an example of how it's shown on Target. And just like you said, it's very similar to how Amazon has their program, Walmart has their program. Within Target, their search results, it's essentially all along the right-hand rail of the actual search results. So it's 4, 8, 12, all along there. And we're only serving on the first page of search results right now, which I think is actually a benefit for the brands, because in my experience, and I have been working in retail media for a long time now, 8 years, we've seen usually about 90% of all the products that are purchased across these retailer sites are happening from that first page. So the first page is really where you want to be, and so that's where we're serving in the first so it's 4, 8, 12, 16, all along that right-hand rail of the search result page. And the way that you can tell that it's an ad is that Target puts a very small little word says sponsored. So, it's not really noticeable as an ad. We're taking the SKU as it already exists on Target, and we're just bumping it up, higher up in the search results, so that higher chance of them converting on your product.
And that's so similar. If folks have been on Walmart, it's very similar to the early, for how Walmart, when they were really ramping up their sponsor products, that's exactly what they had, which it was a limited number of ad placements on page one and in specific areas. It was, I believe it was at 3, 8 and some other one, but it was very similar to this, where it's specific placements where these ads are going to show up. You had to rank in a given portion organically in order to be served, get one of these ads, right? You couldn't be in another category, right? Like I'm advertising my laundry detergent on moisturizer, right? It had to be in that category, relevant search. And similarly, what I would say is, like, going forward, right? Walmart changed, right? This is, okay, we're going to roll this out. This is how we're going to go now. Expect these things to change. Walmart, only recently, this is about 3 months ago, kind of took down those guardrails, and now they say any spot 1 to 12 can be an ad. And exactly how Target ends up modifying it, obviously, is like anyone's guess, but expect something like that to happen, that this will be their initial foray. Let's prove this out. Let's prove that the user experience is good, that users like it. And assuming that's the case, right, they're probably going to open up a little more inventory here, give advertisers, you guys, a little bit more levers at your disposal in terms of actually getting that ad space and winning sales.
Yeah, we see that all the time with so many retailers. They'll test out even just putting different placements. They're kind of just, let's test everything out and see what works better, right? And so that's on the search page, and then it's the same experience for the category browse page. So if you are actually clicking on the category tabs within Target, those ads will render in the same spot. And this is across desktop, mobile web, as well as their app. So it's all traffic, that relates to Target. And then last is the product detail page, which is a really important placement, especially for branching out, because like you mentioned, from a search perspective, we need to stay very relevant. That's what the retailers want. So if you are a laundry detergent, you cannot bid on the keyword moisturizer. You're not going to be able to serve there, right? What the product detail page allows you to do is maybe branch out a little bit further and also competitively conquest. So Target doesn't allow you to bid on your competitor terms. We talked about this from a display perspective, where you can also get that competitive element from a search perspective is on the PDP pages. So, if you're a laundry detergent, you can show your ads on competing brands' PDP pages, and then complementary as well, right? So anything that is relevant to your category. So if you're, the easiest one is like peanut butter and jelly, or peanut butter on a bread, PDP, things like that might go hand in hand.
Awesome. Yeah, and just to emphasize, I think, taking a third-party perspective, a lot of the stats that we were showing earlier were Target's own, but I mean, everywhere you look, Target is growing. And I think the biggest thing, you see some digital sales here, some figures that obviously were, pretty astronomical, especially during COVID. Again, to our point, you're going to still see continued growth, not at the rates of 2020, but still continued growth from where we are now. And Target, right, this has now become a huge portion of their business. It went from only 9% of their total revenue to 18% in a given year, right? Doubling the percentage of revenue that's coming again for Target. So this is huge for them. And I'd also note they're beating the overall market. That when you look at amongst all, this is separate when you look at by online retailer, who grew the most over the past year, Amazon's up there, Walmart's up there, and then it's Target in terms of just sheer growth rate. So, while from a sheer online sales perspective, they may be behind, for instance, like eBay as an example, they're growing to an extent where you can stay ahead of it a little bit. They're going to really try to catch up with Walmart and Amazon and try to overtake eBay as an example. Pay attention to that, because they did beat the market when you look from, again, just a sheer increase in share perspective. So worth paying attention to there.
Yeah.
And let's get into this a little bit, kind of just detailing it. Again, we talked about this from the sponsored products ad perspective, right? And I know, you guys can go into this a little bit here. We kind of covered this, but right, this is about performance. I mean, and again, if you're used to performance-based advertising on Amazon and Walmart, the stuff that Target's doing is going to be most analogous to what you're used to on those platforms. Again, for the display advertising that you talked about, that's definitely something that you should look into. But this, in terms of vis-a-vis, like, okay, how can you see something that's very similar? This is definitely right up there.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, maybe something we didn't really touch on is that it's all performance driven and cost per click, right? So, you're only paying if someone does actually click on the ads, the same way, that Amazon and Walmart, runs their program. And so there's no ad creation here. We're taking the SKU as it already exists on Target, and we are just bringing it up higher in the search result for people to purchase the product. And then we do have a platform that can either be fully self-serve or a platform that you have visibility into, but someone on our team manages it. So both of those options are available with no additional fees. The way our program works is there's, as long as you're spending a certain amount and you would like an account manager to manage it for you, then we can do that. Otherwise, for our self-serve clients, we do have support. So our platform actually has kind of like a little chat bot that you can chat at any time if a question comes up. We also have dedicated client services managers for the self-serve accounts. And so if you need to reach out to somebody because you need help setting up a campaign, or you just want to have a chat about like strategy moving forward, our team, we do have self-serve support there to support you on both sides. And so again, it's very similar to what you're probably already doing with Walmart and Amazon, but it's just also including that you have that full pie there, right? Because even when you think about shoppers, like a lot of people are going to be browsing between all of these quote unquote big box sites. So if you have a strategy for Walmart and Amazon and you don't have something for Target, chances are you have your products there. And there's so much cross shopping happening, right? And so then you have your strategy on Walmart and Amazon, and then when they go to Target, that's when you're losing them, right? So it's important to make sure that you do have your strategy across basically everywhere that you're selling your products.
Yeah, and I mean, and getting into this, I think let's go into the differences though for folks. I mean, because there's a lot similar. There are some differences, and Target is not the same right now as Amazon and Walmart. It's still a little different. I think the biggest thing, well, first thing, one thing that's similar to Walmart is they operate a first price auction. So again, for those that are familiar with Amazon, rather, it's second price auction, right? If I bid $1, and the next highest person bids 50 cents, I'm only paying 51 cents. I'm paying 1 cent above. Walmart, it is what you bid is what you pay, assuming you win, right? So if I bid $1, even if the second person only bid 50 cents, I'm still paying $1. In that sense, it makes it a little bit easier to understand your costs, because it's not, you won't run into a scenario, which some folks run into in Amazon, right, where, oh, hey, this is a super profitable keyword, I'm getting profitable sales, and then there's this slow creep where if you don't watch it closely enough, you've been bid up, where I was paying 51 cents, but now because I was putting in that bid at $1, you're essentially getting upper bid, and then you might not know you're losing profitable sales, or your margin's been crimped significantly. So first price has its advantages, disadvantages, and I think there's proponents on either side. But the good thing is, right, at least auction type wise, similar to Walmart. One thing that is very different, this is probably the biggest difference, is right now there's no API connection. So one thing that something like Ticketmetrics does is, right, we'll use the API to essentially programmatically bid and make minute bid adjustments and all these things essentially at a very rapid pace via this API connection. Again, as of yet, that is not the case. But as we said, things change. So absolutely watch the space, because we know a lot of these retailers are looking to Amazon and Walmart, which have the most widely utilized and really successful online advertising ecosystems. They're watching these folks. So again, keep an eye on Target for news there. And again, right now we talked about it. The two partners, it's CitrusAd and Criteo. That's who you buy from. And again, the offer, I mean, as Dana, you mentioned, you have a lot of tools at your disposal within that universe there. And I think biggest point is it's really 1P centric as of right now. It's if you're a 3P seller, again, those options are definitely going to be coming. I absolutely expect that to happen. But right now, it is very focused on those 1P sellers. I don't know if you have any kind of light you want to shed on that, Dana, as well.
Yeah, so I know they've done a lot with their what they call their Target Plus for the third-party marketplace sellers, and I know that's grown a lot, especially last year, and so that is something that we will be able to tap into probably within the next couple of months, if not sooner. So that is something that is on the roadmap and coming soon for sure.
Great. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, it's one of these things where Target, historically has been very, assortment conscious, that we want to be very conscious of what their assortment is. And right, the Target Plus, these other things they're doing is it's opening up a little bit. They're still going to have obviously very exacting standards, similar to Walmart in a way, which they started opening up a little bit more, but Walmart was very, what type of business can advertise and actually list on the site was much more constrained. So Target is going to be taking steps there as they go. And we talked about this, right? It's really these sponsored products ads, obviously on these specific locations. If you're thinking about on Amazon or Walmart, which I just rolled these out a little bit ago, a sponsored brands type unit, like top of the search page, and it like looks kind of like this slightly branded product listing. It's not there yet. Not to say that won't happen in the future, but right now, again, the placements we talked about that we went through earlier, that's what's there right now. And we went over this earlier. Where's the inventory located? It's in these places: the product detail pages, category pages, search pages, landing pages. So this is where your ads will actually show up. And these are places where your Amazon and Walmart ads will show up as well. Just give it slightly different inventory potentially.
Yeah, and just to build on that or confirm. That's just what's available through Citrus Ad, right? So Target does have a number of other products that they run in-house through their Roundel team. So if you're a brand and you're looking for other types of ad units on Target, that is something you can get. It would just be through Roundel. So what Citrus Ad manages is just the TPAs, so the sponsored products. And then I know I saw just a couple of questions come in. So one was on the first price auction, and will Citrus Ad optimize the first price auction? Other ad partners are able to do so automatically. So what's interesting about the auction types is for Target specifically, we will operate as a first price auction, but that's actually the only retailer on Citrus Ad's platform that does that. All the other retailers that we work with operate on a second price auction. So all the grocery retailers, Petco, Lowe's Home Improvement, GoPuff, those are all second price auction. Target is the only one within the Citrus Ad platform that we must bid right now as a first price auction. And then can you explain more of the 1P centric? So I don't know, I think we kind of went over this. It's more of just like the 1P kind of meaning like not everything outside of the marketplace sellers. So like a third party seller, which is their Target Plus program, is just not available yet, but it's coming.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into, okay, if you're on this call and you're an Amazon or Walmart.com seller, why should you look into new channels, period? I think, you know, we touched on this earlier. As the retailers expand offerings, it's really, really helpful to get in early. This is an awesome graph that Marketplace Pulse put together, I think it was a couple weeks ago, but it shows the age of Amazon sellers kind of as you go through. And pay attention to those those bars in the lower part of the graph, because those are old sellers, and you can see they you know, what this was showing, hey, there's not saturation within the market yet. There's more people coming in, there's more sellers coming in, but there's this big group of older sellers that are just on the platform, and they've been able to be successful and not essentially churn out of Amazon where they're you know, defunct brand. And being old on these platforms makes a difference. You know, on Amazon and Walmart, and you know, Target, I'm sure is using a similar type of algorithm, which is conversion history, and your ability to convert folks is what will make them say, oh, this product should be ranked higher. This product should show up on relevant keywords. It's all about conversion history. That's what they're basing it on. It's a consumer-driven business, and they will take those cues from consumers, which is a conversion. It's the best signal there is that is a relevant product, and we want to show that product more often. So when you have that history, it makes it that much harder to unseat you. So on Amazon, you know, this is an environment that's been around, you know, now been around in e-commerce world a long time. That if you're a newer seller on there, in order to, let's say, even rank on page 1 for a big category keyword, let's say you're a new laundry detergent, to rank first page on laundry detergent is going to take you a really long time. The only thing you really have to do, you have to advertise, because that's the only way you're going to get significant enough sales volume to like ever rank on page 1. And again, the folks that have been there a long time have that built-in advantage. We've had those conversions, we have those reviews that people buy our product. So this is going to be the case with Target and these other retailers as well. If you get on there and you build up that conversion history, you're going to be in a much better position, you know, going forward 3 years from now, as opposed to if you're trying to get in later and play catch up. And that's what the flywheel effect is, as I talked about there. And you know, think about your target consumer. Amazon or Walmart is a big chunk of where shoppers are going online, but in terms of your customers, they're going different places. And you need to really think long and hard about, okay, can you get some intelligence about what's the other, if it's a bigger shopper channel, maybe it's a niche shopping channel, where are your shoppers going where you can meet that demand? And your ability to get in there, again, before your competitors, learn some things, be successful, it's going to put you in a better position 2, 3, 4 years from now as things continue to grow. Because all that growth will not just be situated on Amazon and Walmart, right? It's blooming out to these other platforms. And in terms of just growing your sales, new channels, it's probably the best way to do it. It's really, it's a great way to, you're reducing risk, and it gives you a whole new channel, potentially a whole new group of consumers that you're reaching with your products. So it's definitely something to look into. I know it's sometimes obviously taking the plunge in a new channel can sometimes be intimidating because if you've done very well on Amazon and Walmart, you're thinking, well, why miss success? This is the way to, stay ahead, because if you could be growing by 10%, but if your entire category is growing by 20%, you are losing market share, even though your growth looks good. So really keep that in mind. This is, moving to a new channel. It's a way to scale, and it's a way to actually continue to catch up with the marketplace. And this is about the levers you can pull. What do you have at your disposal going forward? And if things go wrong, think about last April. If you were a clothing seller, you're thinking, I'm gearing up for the summer shopping season, I'm gearing up for that. And suddenly, granted, this is potentially a once in a century event, rug pulled out from under you with FBA. And those changes with FBA have not, some of them are reverted, but in many cases, FBA is not what it was 2 years ago in terms of reliability, in terms of the amount of space you have as a seller. And it's been hard to adjust. So it's just indicative of Amazon and Walmart, they change quickly. Things around fulfillment, things around, even the marketplace itself. So what are your options? If things change, what are other places where you can still drive sales, still keep your business, in a good spot? Having other channels to fall back on is a good way of doing that, right? And think about even the advertising costs, which Dana mentioned, right? Obviously, these are continuing to go up across these channels that are getting more and more competitive. Where else can you juice demand? These other channels, if you're selling on them, you can advertise on them. It's another way of, okay, this has gotten too expensive. Let's move here. Let's maybe put some more ad dollars here, see what we can do. And I've harped on this a lot, but get in before your competitors. It's all about capturing market share and your ability to kind of learn these things before they do. You're going to be in a better spot. So I think this is a great way of kind of wrapping up before we kind of get to some final questions. But these are, as you think about moving to other channels as a whole, these are kind of some key things you should be thinking about. So first is just inventory. Do you have that inventory on hand to expand in the first place? If you're really hamstrung for inventory servicing on Amazon and Walmart, you need to be able to scale up that inventory before you think about moving to other channels. Otherwise, you don't want to run out of stock. Running out of stock on Amazon is a big no-no that can impact your organic ranking for months, even if you're just out of stock for a day. So make sure you have that inventory in hand to service these other channels at a bare minimum. Okay, let's say you've got that. Well, which parts of your inventory? Is it all? Is it maybe just some of your products that you feel are a really good fit for a particular retailer? Which ones do you want to move to other channels, right? There's niche retailers, right? If you're thinking about, let's say your beauty brand, you want to, let's say, move over to, let's say, Ulta, another beauty retailer, ShopRite as another example. Okay, do you want to move all your inventory over there? Do you want to just move some? Do you want to take maybe your most popular products, maybe your newest product, maybe your highest margin products? Think very strategically about what you want to do with this channel and where you think you're going to get the most bang for your buck.
Yes.
And then, okay, yeah, go for it. Yeah.
To add to that too, I think, even if you don't know the answer to that, because, we encounter that sometimes with brands where they're not sure, like you can lean on, people on Andrew's team and people on my team to help make those recommendations. Or you can kind of just, that's the whole part of the idea of testing, right? And especially, with some of these grocery retailers where we mentioned earlier, where it's not as expensive to play, you can kind of maybe throw a lot of things against the wall, get the learnings to see what sticks to answer those questions, right? If you're not really sure, running all of the SKUs that you have on some of these retailers if you've never done it before, because then our team can go in and say, well, these are the products that were performing better, or these are the keywords that worked better, or, these are the categories for your display units. Sometimes you can, create test campaigns without knowing all of those answers. The whole point is to just do a test that's casting a very large, wide net, and then you can get the learnings from there for future activations. And some of those you can use, cross retailers too, right? Some things that you do on a grocery retailer or a GoPuff might actually work well for a Target, or even an Amazon.
Yeah, we definitely said, when people were spinning up Walmart, they had an existing Amazon business. Okay, we're moving over to Walmart. Our first thing is, okay, what were your highest performing keywords on Amazon? Test this at Walmart. Like, see how they're doing, and you'll get insights from that in terms of like, okay, what's, there'll be clues in terms of what your also even next step after that. And There's looks like a question here from Dan saying, do we know if target ranking also takes a large hit from Amazon in terms of out of stock? I would not be so sure. However, I would say that in the realm of advertising, at least because it's one piece centric, that inventory piece is not going to be, or that out of stock piece is not going to be as big of an issue. However, on the marketplace, again, I'm not so sure in terms of any kind of impact to organic ranking there. But that's something yeah, I don't know if Dana, if you have any insight, that might be a little harder question to answer there.
Yeah, just trying to understand. So you mean in terms of their organic ranking on their site, if SKUs are going out of stock, if that is impacting?
Yeah, I think the question is, because this happens on Amazon, this is obviously a big worry. If you're a seller on Amazon, if you go out of stock really for a day, it impacts your organic ranking where you're getting dinged by them. You're getting essentially put down the organic ranking list. Obviously, this is very unique to if you're a 3P seller, because if you're 1P seller, Amazon's, they're the ones buying your products and essentially selling them for you. So it's a little bit of a different animal when you're 1P. Versus 3P. But I don't know if, I mean, it's definitely a tough question to answer because I think that's become, the Amazon's algorithm has been studied ad nauseum by any number of people. So this has become like, okay, we know this impacts organic rank, similar on Walmart. Target is still, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, a little newer to this. I mean, right, their site's been around a while, but they're really only started ramping up their e-commerce presence, I think, over the past 3-4 years. So it's a little bit, I think, hazier in terms of what's the impact to organic rank there. And
they do have a lot in the works in terms of how their mediation layer is going to change and what factors into relevancy. Right now, it is mostly like conversion rate and click-through rate, right? So the SKUs that are getting clicked on more and purchased more are going to organically, filter up to the top. That's also going to depend upon the platform. So for the citrus ad platform, we're actually looking at the relevancy on a week-by-week basis. And so every week, it's going to change based upon how many clicks and how many sales those SKUs are driving. I will say, though, as it relates to out of stock, it's not something in my experience that we've seen a lot of issues with Target specifically. Like you said, I think it's more of an issue with Amazon because of the 3P sellers. With Target, we don't really see too many products falling out of stock on a regular basis. Even within like where we did see it a lot previously was like the perishable items that were for pickup, right, in store or same day delivery. But even that has changed dramatically in the last year because they've increased their efforts there. And so we're not seeing as many issues with, out of stock, even within that area. So I don't think it's something that's going to hurt your ranking too much, but just to kind of speak to like what is factoring into the relevancy, it is mostly conversion rate and click-through rate. And for citrus ad, we're looking at it on a weekly basis.
That's good context there for sure. Okay, just because I know we're running short on time, so we're almost a perfect running time. So what are the qualification criteria for the new retailer? So as you think about, okay, I want to get up and running, do you have everything you need to get up and running on there? And so this is something, obviously, Walmart makes this available on their site, Target does. When you're getting live on a new retailer, what do you have to have? Walmart, it was a US tax ID number. There were certain things that you had to have, get them in place, know what those are before you take the plunge, right? So you're not scrambling, oh, we're gonna get live, oh, crud, we had all these things that we had to do at the last minute. So get that plan together. What retailer do I wanna go? Okay, what are the qualifications? What do I have to get in place before we go live here? And then on the advertising front, straight up, what are your goals? What are you looking to do with advertising on there? This could be a branding exercise. This could be something we say, this is a more emerging channel for us. We know there's folks on here that might be interested in us kind of a more companion basis, right? Maybe we want to do some more branding plays on here, or right, is it more performance-based, right? We know we can drive conversions. Let's really be nailing down on for instance, the sponsored products front, trying to hit these biggest category keywords, get ourselves an advantage. And then, do you have the assets needed, right? Something we've seen across retailers is content it works. And there's a reason when you look across, this is a study I did back in my previous job at Salsify, but when you look across retailers, across categories, across price points, products that are among the top sellers tend to have more images, they tend to have like more bullets, they tend to have enhanced content, as opposed to poor selling products, which have less images, et cetera. So you want to put yourself in the best position to win. So that means it's like having a good product detail page that will actually drive conversions, because again, you're hurting yourself if you just like, well, let's get our product up there, we'll put one image and we're good, we'll spend on advertising. Your advertising won't work as well. You won't get those conversions, you won't get the conversion rate. And right, as Dana said, right, they're looking at conversion rate as a means to inform organic ranking, and you could be actively hurting yourself out there with a poor listing. So with that, we can get to, we have like probably 1 more minute for Q&A. Let's see some final questions here. It looks like we have one final one around, will Target open their e-commerce platform to 3P sellers? So I know, they do have their marketplace platform. It's a little more limited in scope as of right now, Target Plus. I don't know, Dana, do you have any kind of maybe additional details on that? I know you guys are more focused on that 1P segment, but in terms of other stuff around.
Yeah, so they do have the ability for third-party sellers. They have, like you said, they have that platform. It's called Target Plus. It's just for us right now, we can't run advertising for those yet, but that is coming hopefully, at some point this summer.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Definitely keep your eyes open, because there's definitely more coming from Target. We're super excited on the Takeometric side. I know you guys are excited that this is going to be another great channel for folks, and it's only going to get better. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Well, we are right at time, and so I want to thank you, Dana. This has been, I think, a lot of fun, and thanks everyone for hopping on the line. Again, you'll get a replay of this entire presentation, video replay, along with the slide deck, so you can view it at your leisure. You'll get that roughly 24 hours from now, if not sooner. And thanks again. Hope to see you on the next webinar. We'll be doing one again next week, I think on Thursday. So keep an eye out for that one. All right. Thanks so much, Dana. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.